Showing the subject. Which of the following has extension using my power? Wait, the core industrial west. No. Hi, Ren. You're the first one.
Hello.
Hello. You are in what time zone? Ring. China. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you. Hi, Nicolette.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Still trying to stay warm. It's getting better. Today we have we have like a 20 something today.
Ah, nice. No more rainstorm. I mean, snowstorm.
The snow stops, but still, you can see that, snow still piling up on the roadside. That is
Ah,
much better. Christmas
oh,
Eve,
okay.
we have -2.
Ah, oh my God.
I know, right? So how are you doing? You still quarantined in your own room?
Yeah, still quarantining.
Okay, almost done, right?
Hopefully like 5 more days, maybe.
Okay, manageable. 5 days, manageable. Hang in there. Okay, welcome to the class. All right, you're gonna have a whole bunch of classmates to support you. All right, so we have Sunny C joining us. All right. Jason is joining us. Okay. Did I share my screen? No, I did not. Okay. I'm gonna double check I got the right slides. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Homework first. All right. Nina. All right. All right. Good morning, good evening to everyone. Welcome to the class. We have a new friend joining us today, Nicolette Liu from New York. Welcome to the hi. Okay, it's a kind of mid-size class, all right? And we get to know each other in no time. All right. So, our homework from last time is the multiple choice question practice, right? So this time it's a teamwork. Some of them is 1 or 2 questions, and together we kind of, need to go through every questions. Yay! So we get familiarize ourselves once again to how to conquer this multiple choice question, right? See, team effort is always working. Okay, but overall, you did a good job. Average, we missed like 1 or 2 questions only. That's good. But we tend to miss the different questions in this case. All right. So let's go through the first set. All right. Question 1, 2, 3. So question 1, 2, 3. As usual, we look at the time. It's 1453. This year kind of remind us of a turning point in world history, right? 1453. What happened? Byzantine, right? Byzantine fell to Turkish Islamic Empire, right? The Oz family, along with their followers, right? They established this Ottoman Empire, right? So 1453 is the time Byzantine ended, and the rise of this new gunpowder empire, Islamic empire to be exact, is Ottoman, right? So Ottoman is Turkish Muslim, and they are Sunni, right? And next to Ottoman to the east, we have Safavid, right? Safavid Empire, modern days Iran. That would be a minority Muslim, right? That's Shia Muslim, right? And then next to Safavid, it's Mughal Empire. So Mughal Empire would be considered as another Sunni Muslim as well, right? Controlling, dominating India, all right? So that's what's going on back then in the world, right? So the fall of the Byzantine Empire right here. Yes. Okay. So the fall of Byzantine Empire, right? So let's see. Account of taking of Constantinople. All right. So Constantinople is the capital of Byzantine Empire before the fall of this mighty empire, right? So paragraph 1 is talking about the process. Like after this, they built a kind of a house in which they placed their cannon. Okay, so we don't know who they are yet, but this structure had a gate facing the city when they wanted to fire the cannon, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically it's talking about whoever this they is. So let's try to find out who are they. And towards the end, we actually find this one. The Turk had with them cannons and other materials, right? But those from the city started a fire, and that's burned many Turks. All right. So we're seeing the confrontation between Turks and Byzantine Empire, right? And gunpowder is definitely mentioned because we have cannon, right? So that kind of remind us of this land-based empire, how they managed to rise up to power, including Mongol, that would be gunpowder, right? So in this unit, the land-based empire, we focus on how, remember, two topics, how this land-based empire managed to consolidate power, right? So control this conquer people. Well, if you have like, options showing gunpowder, go with that, all right? So gunpowder is the way this land-based empire adopt to conquered, okay, their land. And then after the conquering, right, they're gonna convince the people who is the new boss now, right? And that's the time we talk about how they manage to consolidate their rule, right? So they use gunpowder to conquer people. People may not recognize, the new government's authority. So that's the point you ask yourself, how do I convince people I'm better than your previous ruler? Okay, there are various ways to consolidate the rule, right? One is through religion. Remember Islam, right? So claim this caliph or sultan already legitimate your racial status of the new ruler, right? Because if you are Islam, okay, you're a Muslim, you recognize Allah, you recognize Muhammad, you recognize the descendants of Muhammad, right? So religion is one convenient way to legitimate the rule, right? So this applied to Islamic Empire, also applied to China, right? Qing Dynasty, after Qing invaded the Ming, right? And then the government actually adopt Confucianism to rule over Qing people, right? And that was another example of using religion. Well, I would probably say Confucianism is not really a religion. Okay, it's more like a belief system, but college boards somehow group Confucianism into this religious world, right? So let's just play along, right? So when it comes to religion, Confucianism can be an evidence for you in your essay or short answer question, right? So Confucianism to Chinese society is more like a belief system, moral standard, but in college board's curriculum, it qualifies as a religion. Okay, so to qualify as a religion, you have what? A worship, right? At least like a god or like enlightened Buddha. Well, Confucianism, we do have Confucius, right? Sort of like an enlightened one, similar to Buddhism, right? And religion, they're gonna have their temples, right? Do we have temples to practice Confucianism? We actually do, right? We have Temple of Confucius, Kong Miao, right? So before exam, you see students rushing to the Temple of Confucius, right? And make a promise, please help me pass the exam. I promise I will study harder, right? So in that case, oh yeah, kind of, right? So we do have an enlightenment founder like Buddhism. We do have temples, okay, to worship Confucius, like, Buddhism as well. So in that case, yeah, it qualifies as religion anyway. So use religion to legitimate the rule. Okay, example would be Confucianism in China, Islam in Islamic world, right? Also Eastern Orthodox in Byzantine. Also we have a Catholicism in Western Europe, right? So all these are your examples, your evidence to support your claim that after conquering people, the new established government tend to use religion as a means to legitimate their rule, right? So religion is one way, and other way would be what? Buildings, right? Buildings or arts, right? Portrait. So like Forbidden City in China, right? Like Palace of Versailles in France, right? So when you see this significant building, and then you will come to the conclusion that whoever lived in this palace, right, must be super powerful. Okay. All right, so gunpowder enable Ottoman to conquer Byzantine. And the second paragraph is talking about after the conquering, the Turk become governor of Constantinople, that's the capital, right? Named Solomon in German, and occupy the church, Hagia Sophia, right? To practice its faith here. Well, so that kind of, echo what we just talked about, right? The first paragraph is talk about how this state building, new rising government managed to consolidate power, gunpowder. And after that, use religion, right? Because it's church, right? To legitimate their rule. Okay, so in that case, we got question one, all right, yes. And then now question two, in the second paragraph, that will be this one, right? So this one basically is talking about how Ottoman Empire managed to legitimate their rule, right? It's converting Hagia Sophia into their mosque, right? So mosque is the term for Islamic temple, right? So it's a way to appeal to the public, right? Now I am the chosen one by Allah, or sort of, okay? Or I'm the descendant of Muhammad, right? And if you're a Muslim, right? You recognize Allah, you recognize my authority. Okay, so it's religion. So focus on this perspective, and let's take a look. Question 2, which one would do? We do have this keyword religion. A, right? It's right here. So as the religious center of Constantinople, occupying it and converting it into a mosque, as an Islamic temple, would help to legitimize its rule, right? So question 2, that echo our big idea in land-based empire, right? So religious practice would be a way to legitimate the rule, right? So that's question number 2. Any questions? Any wrong answer you chose, you don't know why it's wrong? No? If not, I assume you understand now, right? Okay, let's move on. Question 3, it goes, as the Ottomans moved further into Eastern Europe, expanding their empire, how did they gain legitimacy in the eyes of their new subjects in the Balkans, right? So Balkans refers to modern day Greece, right? And that's the Greek society. If you travel further north, you will arrive in the Slav community, right? So either it's Greek or Slav. Remember what religion they practice? Eastern Orthodox, right? Eastern Orthodox. That was back to Byzantine Empire. But now the new government practice Islam. Oops, so religious conflicts. How does Ottoman Empire try to gain legitimacy? Well, you either convert the conquer people, or you allow them religious tolerance, right? But convert the conquer people, you cannot use force. You can only use what incentive, right? Because using force to convert any individual into a Muslim is prohibited by Quran, right? So let's see. Any options that relate to either, use an incentive to convert people, or simply allow them religious freedom, but you're gonna pay for this, right? Remember? So if you wanna continue to practice your own belief system, right? So you worship God or GD, okay, it's up to you. But if you really believe your God worth that much, okay, and you're so devoted to your God, you won't mind to pay a little extra tax, right? So you can allow yourself to continue worship your God, right? So that's called jiksha, right? So taxation. Also, the other incentive is what if you choose not to convert into a Muslim, okay, within this Ottoman Empire, you're gonna lose your privilege to secure a job in the government, all right? So that will be the incentive Ottoman Empire practice, right? So let's see which option either mention religious tolerance or mention the incentive to attract conquer people to convert. So in that case, if you look at option D, they were religiously tolerant, okay, allowing Christian communities to practice their faith. That's true, but at the cost, right? At the cost, as long as they submit to Ottoman power, right? So you recognize Ottoman Empire as your new government. If you want to continue to practice Christianity, you can, but you're gonna pay for it, okay? And that tax is called jiksha, right? So that answer to set 1. I give you a couple seconds to think about it. If you have any questions related to the answer you chose wrong, that you still don't understand why it is wrong. Any questions? You can just raise your hand. If you need to type, you can raise your hand first. So I will wait for you. Nothing? Okay, awesome. So let's move on to the next set. This is non-textual, right? Non-textual source. 4 to 6 based on this portrait, right? And we already know this is Kangxi Emperor at the age of 45, painted in 1699. Okay, once again, when we deal with this non-text source, And when it's a painting, we focus on what? The center, right? So the center is the topic sentence when we write our paragraphs, right? So the center definitely is the emperor, right? So we know it's the poetry designed to promote, yes. Today, convert Christian people using Janissary, what are considered by force? You can say it's blood text. It's blood text. Good thinking, Nina. Yes, after Ottoman conquered Byzantine, right? So let's go back to this one. Nina raised the question. So Ottoman Empire conquered Byzantine, right? And they actually, yes, allowed this religious tolerance to like in the households and the society, but they did figure out a system called Janissary. But the Janissary is not like a, convert people by force. They simply come up with this system called related to blood tax, right? So if you you are now the subject within this Ottoman Empire, right? So it's your duty to pay tax. And there's a new form of tax is what? You surrender your own boy, your own sons at the age around 8, right? Sometimes even younger, like 6, right? So the Ottoman Empire will raise your son for you, educate your son for you. So make it some more like, not so brutal. But Ottoman Empire's true agenda is to brainwash these young boys, right? So they did provide education, they provide food, shelters, everything. They even provide, career development for these young Christian boys, right? But because they're so young, they're easy to be brainwashed, right? So when they're taken by the Ottoman Empire, they started to study Quran, right? So when they grew up, they become super loyal to their sultan. Okay, so that way they can avoid being accused, like, forcing people into converting as a Islam, okay, as a Muslim. But it's like through education. Okay, we're teaching you Quran. So it's your own will to convert, right? So that's another way of like, try to play in this gray zone. Does that explain your question to you, Nina? Thank you. Okay, so we can go back to Kangxi, right? Okay, so Kangxi right here, the center is Kangxi. And we know whoever penned this painting is commissioned by the emperor for sure, right? To promote this kind of like a legitimacy, right? How do we know it's legitimacy? If you look at Kangxi, right? See what is on his feet, right? So it's a book, right? It's a book. And also that's the topic sentence of this painting, right? And we have layers in this non-textual source, right? So if you look in the back, you see bookshelves, right? With all the books right here. So pair with our understanding of these time period. That's the time we try to analyze how this land-based empire, they rise up to power, right? Gunpowder, and how they manage to prevent unnecessary riots, okay, within this conquered society, right? Most likely than not, they are foreigners, right? So if you look at Islam conquering Byzantine, foreigners, right? You look at Manchurian conquering Ming Dynasty, foreigners, right? Who else? Islam conquering Egypt, foreigners, right? Islam conquering India, foreigners, right? So as a foreign government, you try to rule over a society that's full of, the indigenous people, and especially when they already have like a, deeply rooted culture. Okay, it's difficult, okay, to maintain this social stability. So adopting their local culture or use religion as a means, okay, it's an easy way, convenient way to avoid, well, first to secure this social stability, hence to avoid unnecessary riots or rebellion in the society. So if you look at Kangxi, and we know this is like the golden age of Qing Dynasty, right? Okay, Kangxi, Yongzheng, Qianlong, these 3, grandpa, father, and grandson, right? It's known as Kangqian Shengshi, right? The golden age of Qing Dynasty, right? So in this case, how to manage to do so? Adopt Confucianism, right? So we can conclude that whatever book Kangxi is about to read, right? It's related to Confucianism, right? And we also know that Qing Dynasty continued to adopt this civil service exam, right? to better governing over this conquered society, right? So with that knowledge in mind, let's see question 4. The image of Qing dynasty Emperor Kangxi legitimized his rule to his subjects in which are the following ways. So the image force us to go back to this source, right? We're gonna refer back to this source. So all I see is, Kangxi sitting there reading book, and there are a whole bunch of bookshelves behind him, right? Okay, that's the ways, right? So in this case, number 4, let's see, do we have any books or knowledge or culture or religion? Okay, so we do have option C. Showing the emperor surrounded by books, check, right? Would appeal to his Confucius subjects. That's our knowledge, right? Check about Chinese Han society, right? Who might otherwise see him as a foreign monarch. Check. He was Manchurian, right? So option C, no problem. There's no keywords that we can cross it out. Remember, use POE, focus on the keywords. Okay. Any questions about AB dog? Any question? AB dog? No, you can raise your hand. No? Okay, so move on to question 5. So question 5, in the treatment of their subjects, okay, the Qing dynasty, the subject is Qing, right? Practiced which are the following policies? Okay, so policies in this time period. All right, so we know Qing banned interracial marriage, right? Qing forced the conquered people to change their hairstyle, only apply to men, right? You have options, choose your hair or choose your head, right? And what else? Oh, second-class citizenship, right? So you cannot have this access to this social elites activities, or particular region is prohibited. We have forbidden city, right? That if you're not Manchurian, you're not supposed to go. Okay, so based on our knowledge, let's see, because this one is not asking us to refer to the source. In the question, there's no keywords ask us to refer to the source, right? So it's a knowledge-based question. So our knowledge tell us, okay, yeah, the adopt Confucianism, okay, to show they're not foreign government, right? But besides that, no interracial marriage, no high-end government job available to Han people, right? And then certain districts they're reserved for Manchurians only. Okay, so based on that, let's see if we have any options indicates any of our knowledge that we just come up with. So A, the Han Chinese subjects faced prohibition against moving into Manchurian and limit on their ability to serve in high-ranking position in government. Check, check, and check, right? So Han people match our knowledge, right? It's Han people being governed by foreigners, right? Face prohibition against moving into Manchurian. Yes, second-class citizen, right? Also limit their ability to serve in a high ranking, right? So it could probably secure a job like the governor, okay, for the province. But if you want to be working in the central government in Beijing, very difficult, okay, especially a high ranking job, right? So number 5A, no keywords wrong. Questions? That's number 5. Questions? Nope. Okay, then. So move on to question 6. Still based on this portrait of Kangxi, right? And the question asks us, which of the following best explains the Qing dynasty's decline? Okay, so all of a sudden, it's the end of Qing dynasty already. So Qing dynasty's declining power in this period. Okay, so they started to show the weakness, remember, towards the late Qing. Why? What happened? We know the Europeans in period 2, the age of exploration, right? And this colonization enable, this is actually period 3, if you look at this time period, right? So this question is kind of, a continuous continuity and change type of question. So we know we're practicing on units 3 and 4, right? So supposedly it should be this 1450 to 1750. But based on our knowledge of this time period, right, we know the previous irrelevant Europeans, they started to shine, right? How? Because of the fall of Byzantine Empire lead to the Europeans had to discover a new way to reach Asia, right? And Portugal focus on the old world, right? So they take this West Africa's coast, right? And then to the southern tip of Cape of Hope, and then allow them to monopolize Indian trade, right? Indian Ocean trade. But Spain, on the other hand, right, is a beautiful mistake Columbus made, right? To Europeans, not so much to Indians. So this discovery of a new world lead to Columbian exchange, or lead to this colonization. Everything happened in this time period, right? That's the reason why the formerly irrelevant European states now started to rise up and shine. To a point, when it comes to 1750, they would surpass China, surpass India. Okay, the previous dominant power in the world, not the world, but at least for Eurasia, right? Okay, so in this case, continuity and change. So we do know one thing for sure, okay? Qing's decline has something to do with the rise of Europe, right? And at the same time, Qing refused to adopt this industrialization, right? Mainly because Qing government was considered as, that time was controlled by Cixi, right? She was like, conservative politician, and did not really recognize the needs, the necessity to industrialize, right? And still uphold China's, Middle Kingdom status, and praise this, self-sufficient agriculture society, right? That kind of, lead to this window of opportunity for Europeans to shine to the next level, right? So with that knowledge in mind, let's see which option actually echo our knowledge base, right? So 6A, you see, the growing industrial and commercial power of the West. Yep, the West refers to not only Europe though, this time period, also America, right? So growing industry, check, because that's what we're gonna talk about. No, not today though. Today we talk about age of revolution, but we focus on political revolution today. And next we're gonna talk about industrial revolution. Okay, so that's why it's called age of revolution. It's a revolution in two different sectors, political and industrial, right? So 6A, industry, check, right? Commercial, check. West, check. So 6A, no keyword wrong. All right, so think about question 6 questions. Questions? No, I don't see hands. Okay, next set, 7 to 9. Once again, non-textual. I gotta confess, when I first look at this drawing, I have no idea what this is. Okay. I thought, it looks like a horse to me, but not necessarily. And especially you see this like, more like a helmet. Oh, so it should be like, armor. Okay, that's my conclusion, right? But why the design is in this weird way anyway? I don't know if it confused you, but I gotta confess, when I first look at it, oh, Halloween. Okay, but it's a non-text source, right? So we focus on the center. So in this case, the center is this, right? And then the texture is indicating the source is related in Mexica, Aztec. So Aztec Indian Empire located in modern days Mexico, right? Started to refresh our memory, try to dig out our knowledge in related to this source, right? So Aztec, they call themselves Mexica, all right? That's why after 3 centuries colonization, okay, by Spain, Mexico eventually claimed their independence, right, and established this Republic of Mexico. Okay, so they used to be called themselves Mexica, right? So that's a Spanish term. If you study Spanish, Español, then Mexico, Mexica, pretty much the same. Spanish nouns, they have gender difference. With the Spanish nouns referring to male, you end it with O. O. It refers to female, you end it with A. So I actually took Spanish course myself in college. The first noun I learned is loco versus loca. So loco is male something, right? Loca is female something. And the reference like, crazy male, crazy female. Okay. So O is male, A is female. So used to be Mexica, now it's Mexico. Okay. Aztec tribute. Oh, tribute. Now we know, right? Aztec Empire was a confederacy, recall? And through no, not gunpowder. Okay. Through conquering people with their military force, and then they actually allow the conquered people maintain their local autonomy, right? As long as you pay tribute, right? And recognize this Aztec Empire as your new government, similar to Mongol, right? And in a way, kind of similar to Ottoman Empire, okay, but not exact. So this tribute system enable Aztec to avoid unnecessary local riots, right? Well, so the new life changed a little bit, but not like, too much to handle. So that can prevent this unnecessary social riots for Aztec Empire, right? And we mentioned this tribute system, right? Aztec would demand not only crops and manufacture goods, they also demand human as tribute system. For what purpose? Anybody remember? Aztec actually demand human as one of the tribute item. For what purpose? There are multiple purposes. So anybody recall? Why? Why did Aztec Empire? Yes, Jason?
They wanted to sacrifice them to appease their gods.
Just human sacrifice, right? Yes, to plead to the gods, right? It's a polytheistic state, right? To plead their gods, okay, for a better future, okay, long life, right? What other purpose for a human's tribute? Anyone? Anyone? Jace, do you recall? Other than human sacrifice, Aztec demand human as tribute from the conquered people. Okay, for what purpose? Yes, Jace? Jace? You can unmute yourself, Jace? Are you there? I saw you unmute yourself and then you muted yourself. Nicolette, okay, had the answer for us. Thank you. Labor and rituals. Yes. Okay, so labor, right? So to provide for such a mass empire, right? You cannot guarantee enough food, right? So it demands labor to work on this industry. Thank you, Nicolette. Good job. Also, there's another agenda for human tribute as well. So labor, ritual, human sacrifice, slave, all right? The slave is slightly different from labor. Labor, they actually work on the field to produce. They may have their free time, but slave, not necessarily, right? Okay, enough of data search in our knowledge base. Now let's work on this sets, all right? Timeline, yeah, that match. 7. Which of the following explain the Mexica Aztec use of tribute list? Topic sentence showing they demand pretty much everything, right? Okay, so 7, let's see. A, rulers use tribute collection. Okay, so far so good. To generate the revenue needed. So far so good. To expand the state power. Oh yeah, okay. So they would enlist this human, right, into production, or like, to sacrifice, or to forced labor. Could be in military as well, similar to Mongolian Empire, right? Mongolian Empire, remember how they adopt the conquered states technology and people, right? But Mongols, adopted this technology actually enable Mongolian Empire to continue to conquer the West, right? By gunpowder, learned from China. But they kidnap the conquered people, similar to this tribute system demanding human as a tribute, right? But Mongolian use this captured, conquered people for what purpose? Anybody? Mongol? After Mongol conquer a state, they would take, the people along with them, not all, but some. For what purpose? Comparison right here. You can compare Mongolians' policy towards, demanding of the conquered people versus Aztec Empire. So anybody? Mongolian take the conquered people along with them, to the further expansion to the west. For what purpose? Anyone? Lucas, do you recall? We're doing comparison now.
Did you say my name?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So the stage is yours. What do you recall? Mongol took this conquered people along with them to further expand their territory.
Human shield or something like that. I forgot.
Yes, you're definitely right, right? So when confronting, when a Mongol confronted with the next enemy, they will use this sort of like kidnap, okay, conquer people as human shield, right? So why not just use their own shield? They also use that, right? But human shield can waste the enemy's arrows to begin with, right? Or waste their gunpowder if they have some, right? And that would allow Mongol to better attack this target victim, right? So human shield also slaves as well, right? Also labors to provide for this military force, right? So we have a comparison right here between Aztec Empire and Mongolian Empire. Similarity, labor force. Difference is what? Aztec had this unique practice called human sacrifice. Well, Mongol not necessarily, but they use human as, this conquered people as human shield. Okay, it's a sacrifice to some point, but not to worship the gods, but to, waste their enemies' weapons. All right, so 7, A makes sense. Show hands if you have questions for question 7. Nope. Okay, now move on. Question 8. What innovations allow the Mexican Aztec to support their large population? We actually talked about that. Okay, yesterday or the day before, I forgot. Anybody chose Mita system? If you chose Mita system, you're confusing Inca Empire with Aztec. Mita is practiced in Inca Empire. So it's kind of, not difficult to remember. It's a Inca Mita, right? Kind of rhyme, right? Inca Mita. But Aztec did not practice Mita system. Okay. Even though Mexico did not practice Mita system, anybody recall what is Mita system? Anybody? What is Mita system? Will? What is Mita system? Who's next? Maggie. Oh, Maggie is our TA. Sorry for that. Nicolette, do you recall what is Mita system?
I think it was the one where you would pay tribute with your labor.
Yes. So it's another form of tax, right? So you contribute your labor to the public work, right? So you work to produce, but the production belongs to the government. That's Mita system. But during your own spare time, whatever you still have energy to produce is yours. That's Mita system, all right? But this one is wrong, all right? Okay, so how did Mexico manage to provide for their large population? We know one thing. Remember this floating garden that Europeans mistaken with, right? It's actually a farm. The entire city, Christian people using, wait. I don't think we learned about Qing dynasty. Oh, okay. All right. We probably did not. Okay, no worry. Okay, we'll cover that. So Mita, okay. So their unique construction that really wowed Europeans. Remember when Europeans arrived in Aztec, there was this whole city is amazing how they managed to build this floating garden. Okay, so the whole city was built upon water, right? And remember that technique is what we call chimnampa farming. And we specifically mentioned that do not confuse this term with another term is what? Something rice. What rice? Anybody? Chimnampa farming is a system. They build the farm upon water, so they have enough water source. All right, but the other, very similar spelling is something rice.
Champa rice, something like
Champa rice, right? Thank
Yeah.
you. From where?
that. Vietnam, I don't know.
Thank you. And why is that important?
You grow fast.
Okay, 3 harvests a year also.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another benefit of this chimpa rice.
Low water.
Drought resistance. If you provide water to this chimpa rice, they're happy, okay? But they can resist the drought, right? Okay, so more food, more baby, more population, right? So that's number 8. Chimnampa farming is a unique feature related to Aztec Empire. While champa rice, it's a tribute from Vietnam that really helped Chinese population growth, all right? Questions? Okay. Then we can move on to 9. Question 9 asks, which of the following was most responsible for the fall of Aztec? Okay. So again, the state building, okay, whenever you see an empire fall, okay, one of these following factors must apply, right? So an empire grow too big to control, to govern, or number 2 is corrupt government. Number 3 is what? Famine, poverty, and that probably due to nature disaster, right? And number 4 is what? The foreign invasion, right? So which apply to Aztec? Foreign invasion, right? Spain. Okay, so for number 9, A, resentment of conquered people who joined with the Spanish to fight against the Mexicans. Okay, interesting. So 9, did anybody choose 9A? It does show Spain, right? But it's not the resentment of the conquered people team up with the invader to target their own government. No, be careful. Even though we see Spain, but careful, it's not the main reason. It's the foreign invasion, right? So which one is foreign invasion? C, right? Disease like smallpox that came to America with the Europeans, yes. So first through this military conquering, okay, and later on, well, don't underestimate the resistance of Aztec Empire. They actually fought back, even though they were considered as no comparison to Europeans' gunpowder, right? But still, they fought back. So to Spanish, that's too time consuming and too expensive, right? You're gonna waste all your manpower and your gunpowder. So is there a faster way to, eliminate this Aztec society that we later on we can claim the land to ourselves? Yeah, disease. Remember how Europeans trick Indians, Aztec into into this contact with the virus of smallpox? They present a blanket that is covered with this smallpox disease, right, as a gift to Aztec society. And this naive Indian society is like a thank you, right? And once they started to use this blanket, right, on them, and that's how they got affected with smallpox, right? And remember, smallpox, we were not exaggerating, right? It actually wiped out 90% of the entire Indian population, and that contributed to the fall of Aztec Empire. All right, so that's number 9. So don't get too excited when you see Spain foreign invasion. Okay, yeah, this is the right answer. Be careful. When we exam options, we want to make sure we started from the beginning, okay, and try to focus on the keywords once again, right? Keyword is nouns and adjectives, right? And as soon as you see the keyword wrong, and you can cross it out, all right? So that concludes our unit 3 and 4 multiple choice questions. Okay, if you have questions, raise your hand. Any questions? Yes, Nicolette?
For the homework, I had to do 2 more like passages,
Mm-hmm.
and
You got the bonus.
oh, okay.
Yes, I'll give you the answer later on. All right.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Anyone else? If not, then we can move on to our agenda today. Okay, let's check. What's our agenda today? Today is our class meeting 5, right? What happened to my mouse? Give me a sec. Oh, it's working now. So today is class meeting 5. We're halfway. So today we're going to talk about age of revolution. But as we mentioned earlier, age of revolution refers to 2 different types of revolution. One is political, the other is industrial, right? And today we're going to talk about political revolution. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about industrial, okay? Age of industrialization and its consequences. That's another form of revolution. So political revolution, what are we talking about then? Okay. At the end of period 2, recall at the end of period 2, recall how Europeans was like, right? So this formerly irrelevant European states, right? They started to shine mainly because of this wealth they accumulate from. First step is the Columbian exchange, and then second step, they push into colonization, right? So colonization, European monarchs, they practice mercantilism, recall? So mercantilism is an economic concept where the colonization and this trade with America is controlled by the monarch, right? And even England is controlled by the monarch, right? So you gonna provide your mother country with what? Gold and silver, raw material, and foodstuff, right? And as long as you fulfill your duty as the lawful citizens in the colonies, you're fine. Other than that, you can enjoy your autonomy, right? As what? Benign necklace, right? So this European states is like, okay, I got what I wish I want, right, from my colonists. So yeah, they deserve certain rights. Okay, so they just turn their heads a little bit, okay, away, and then allow the colonies to what? To actually have their local government, right, and practice their own culture, their policies. And to a point that they started to enjoy, they refers to the colonists, right? So these colonists, they started to enjoy this autonomy from their mother countries, right? That refers to pretty much all the European colonies in America, right? So include American, including West. Spain, not necessarily. Spain is different. Spain's colonization is controlled by the monarch, while French, Britain, Netherlands, right? They are practiced by private sectors. And remember, this private sectors is new form of business called charter company, and under this joint stock structure, right? So this private colonies, definitely they're aiming for what? Profit, right? Maximizing their own profit. Okay, so on top of that, this mother country kind of give this consent, okay, green light, okay, you can have your own government locally, and you can negotiate terms and treaties with the other states, other colonies, right? Like a French colony or even Indians, right? If you want to. Okay, so that kind of independence, freedom, and autonomy prevalent in the American colonies, right? For how long? For centuries, right? If you trace back to how Columbus accidentally discovered America, that would be 1492, right? And to the age today we're going to cover is, political revolution, and that's 1750. So 1492, 1750, that's 2.5 centuries, right? So 2.5 centuries, we're talking about what? I don't know, at least like, dozen generations at least, right? So it could be like a 20 generations, right? So the later born generation, born onto these colonies, right? They took this autonomy for granted. That's very important, okay? So when the mother countries tried to started to tighten their policies, upon the colonists. The colonists will start to feel like you are depriving my rights. What rights? Freedom, right? Independent, right? Autonomy. But if you take a step back, these rights claimed by the colonists were not actually belong to them to begin with. It was the monarchs. They kind of like turn their head the other way because the monarchs focus on practicing mercantilism, right? Everything is aiming to enrich the mother country, so the mother country can grow their influence, right? And hopefully claim the dominance status in Europe, if not in the world, right? So that rights colonists claim, okay, being violated by their mother country, they were actually the rights that did not belong to them to begin with. But they already enjoyed this, independence, autonomy for centuries, and you take it for granted. So once people want to take away some rights you already take for granted, you cannot fight back, right? So think about that. Your generation born into internet age, right? So you take internet for granted, I assume, right? So when you're born, internet was already sustainable to you guys. But my generation, we witnessed the birth of internet age, right? So if we do not have internet, I believe my generation can survive. We go back to the traditional way, writing letters, or raise a whole bunch pageants, right? That's even more ancient, right? But your generation, what happened if you all of a sudden, have no longer have access to internet? I'm curious, what would you do? How would you react to that? Nina, how would you react to that? If all of a sudden internet, social media, okay, all this, convenient apps is stripping away from your life, how would you react?
I think we would have to take some time to adapt to the change and figure out some way to go on with life without using the internet.
Really? Wow. Okay. You're amazing. You would try to adapt and then try to get used to it and figure out a way to make it work. Good for you. So you're very resilient. So you can survive under any kind of circumstances, right? But if this situation happened to your school, and your school prohibited you students to use any smart device, okay, and you kind of get, no, right? We need it for study, for socialization, everything, right? So you'll fight back because you take it for granted, right? That's exactly what happened to trigger this age of revolution, political revolution, all right? So with that in mind, we're gonna talk about the first big idea. It's called the Enlightenment. Okay, if you take AP European history, you're gonna see the overlap here. Okay, the Enlightenment was a big topic in AP European history, but in world history cover broader, topic. So the timeline is, longer in comparison to European history. European history started from 1450. World history started from 1200, okay? But Europeans, they go deeper in this big idea, but world history does not, okay? So when we talk about Enlightenment, we just need to know, again, what it is, right? So what and why did it happen? And how? Remember how we focus on two different directions. One is means how, right? So through what way this Enlightenment found its way to European society and later influence America, right? So means how. And the other one is level how. So level how is to what extent, right? How whatever, okay? So how important, how serious, right? How influential, right? So we're gonna focus on what, why, how, okay? About this big idea called Enlightenment. You do not need to dig deeper to understand all this names, all right, and social events, all right, but we do need to introduce 4 major Enlightenment thinkers though, all right? So let's see, what is Enlightenment? Okay, so Enlightenment, you can trace it back to what? To previous European society. Remember, after feudalism, the Europeans started to adopt this idea of what? Absolutism, right? That's the time this European monarchs, one after one, they find themselves all of a sudden become super rich, right? And we mentioned that it's human nature. Once you are you're wealthy, the next thing you want is power, right? But you say, hey, they're already monarchs. What other powers they could possibly be looking for? Oh yeah, power from what? Roman Catholic Church, right? So feudalism, king, okay, or queens in Europe, they actually have to set, yes. Who raised the hand?
My question is, what event does Enlightenment overlap with?
European history.
Oh, okay, got it.
All right. So Enlightenment is, well, it's actually a big topic in European history. You would take that course, right? And it also influenced American history for revolution. It also incorporate in AP US government, right? But if you look at this Enlightenment, who pay more detail focus to this big idea, this topic, that would be AP European history, right? That world history, we cover just, what, why, how, that's good enough, right? So back to this feudalism era in Europe, right? Kings, okay, they kind of, interdependent with the nobles, right? And then kings versus the Roman Catholic Church Pope, they were like, subject to the Pope, right? But later on, this age of exploration, enrich Europeans monarchs, right? To a point, they want more, they want power. They want to undermine the nobilities, the nobles' power by commission them into the bureaucracy, right? So Louis XIV did so, and also built this, Palace of Versailles, right? As a indication of his power. And you know what? After Louis XIV, built this Palace of Versailles, he actually demanded his nobles to move in to the palace to live with him. Okay, anybody think about the logic behind? Why Louis spent all the money, Louis XIV, that's him, right? Spent all the money to build this significant palace of Versailles. And there's hundreds of rooms, right? And after it's done, he actually demanded his nobles to move into the palace and live with him. Why? Anybody? Why the king would want to do so? Friend, what do you say?
Maybe he just want to control the nobles because he just think that making them living with him, he just can't see what they're doing, so he can get a better control of them.
Very good, very insightful. Exactly. So the reason why Louis XIV demanded his nobles to move into the palace is what? If you want to, all right, you want to surprise or like take down your enemies, you want to keep your enemies close. So you know exactly what your enemy is preparing to do, right? So all these nobles, despite how unhappy they could be, because their power is now gradually being stripping away by their king, but you're not living under your king's roof. What can you do? Nothing, right? If you really try to plot something against your king, be careful. There are spies everywhere, okay, working for the king, right? So that's a smart move to demand the nobles to move into the palace, all right? That's another way these European monarchs, they actually try to centralize their power and practice this absolutism monarch in their kingdom, right? So King Louis XIV did that, right? And for 100 years, you see religion was the center authority in Europe, right? Back to the feudalism era. So people's life centralized around this religion practice, right? Even the king, the queen, right, must subject themselves to the Pope, right? But when the time comes to 18th century, 1700-ish, right? It was the European thinkers. they began to question what? Question the role and authority of God, right? Why? You ask yourself why? Why all of a sudden Europeans started to question the authority of God and the kings and the nobles? Because God, kings, nobles, they're kind of, one is the same, right? Because remember, the absolutism era, European monarch claimed divine right of king, right? So it's king, no, it's the God that chose me to be your king. So as long as you believe in God, you should believe in God's choice, right? So in that case, subject yourself to your new king, right? So that's the concept in Europe to legitimate their rule, right? And later on, when it's absolutism, we have other ways to legitimate other than religion, right? Buildings, okay. So this Europeans started to question, what's the logic here? How do you prove that God chose you? You have no evidence, right? So these kings and nobles, right? They all claim that their power is given along with their birth, right? So they have this birth power to be your monarch, to be your king or your noble, your lords, right? So Europeans started questioning that. Why is that? It's because, right? If you want to decipher why all of a sudden Europeans started to question the the concept of divine right of king, okay? It's because the previous era events, right? Cause effect, right? So you want to analyze why something now you're gonna push back to dig out the causation, right? So prior to this era, 1750 to 1900, that would be 1450 to 1750, right? That's the time Europeans started to explore the world, right? So colonization in Spain, it was controlled by the government, yes. But in Britain, France, Netherlands is privatized, right? So this privatization of colonization in New World enriched many corporations, right? And those corporations now, corporations formed by individual, right? So joint stock. So eventually all the profit goes to individual households' pocket, right? So we have a new rising middle class called gentry, recall? So this gentry class, they became rich, right? And of course, once they are rich, the next step, next thing they want is gonna be what? Power, right? And we mentioned that this new rising gentry class, they did not have any voice in the government, right? So they started to question why? How come you have power, I don't? Just because your birth, that's so not fair, right? And pair with this, colonialism, we already know, and we'll talk about capitalism later, right? Also later, we have industrialization, right? So the causation, we realize it's the rising gentry class, and this rising gentry class, along with the practice of capitalism later on in this time period, and the industrialization even further produced a new social class called middle class, right? And the middle class is different from gentry. Okay, gentry class just benefit, make their fortune through trade, right? Middle class, they invest. Okay, they have capital. They invest in what? Factories. All right. So they're actually also known as bourgeoisie, right? So this middle class, they are factory owners, right? And their fortune is even more significant in comparison to the gentry class before. Okay. Well, so all this busy economic activities took place in Europe, right? Especially in Britain and France. All right. So Britain has, stronger root of this democracy. You can trace that back to this glorious revolution, and even further down, okay, in time, it would be the Magna Carta, right? So Britain was like, the first European state to really establish this constitutional monarchy government, right? So this gentry class, they have been growing in wealth for sure and power, right? Well, they don't have a political power yet, but they do have power over the society, right? Rich family, right? So definitely they have, some kind of say in social events, right? Or social decisions. So for more than 2 centuries, right? And by 18th century, that would be 1700-ish, they were ready to run the government, right? They want power. Why? Because only if they have political power, they could protect their private properties, right? So they work so hard to generate all this wealth, right? Of course, they want to, right? They want to secure their property for sure. They don't want to, okay. They don't want to have their monarchs just all of a sudden confiscate whatever they want just by accusing this gentry class for whatever crime they may not have committed, right? So in order to protect their own property, they need to have a seat in the government, right? And besides their desire to bypass the divine right of kings, right, and noble authority, also you have some ideas from England and France, right, actually influence their thoughts and actions. Okay, that's understandable, right? Those are the Enlightenment thinkers, right? So here we have a driving force behind the government was the scientific revolution. So scientific revolution is another big idea in European history, but in world history, we just need to know what is it, okay, what happened. So starting from 1350-ish, okay, 1350 all the way to 1550, Europe underwent these 2 centuries of movement called Renaissance, right? So the Renaissance is a time period when Europeans woke up, okay? What do I mean by woke up? Before this movement of Renaissance, Europeans were very superstitious, right? They explain everything by religion, right? Whatever the church taught the society, and the society believing that, no question asked, right? And then Renaissance is what? The revival of ancient Greek culture and civilization. So Greece was known for their democracy, right? And that's actually called direct democracy. So Greek democracy is everybody in this community have voice in decision making, all right? So should we confront Sparta or Persia? Okay, let's vote, all right? And the majority wins. That's ancient Greek society, right? And ancient Greek society, it was way before the birth of Jesus, right? Jesus Christ. So there's no Christianity in Balkans that time. So ancient Greek society, they have their Greek myths, right? Their various gods that created by the poets, the writer, authors, right? And then but these scholars, they actually promote the idea of logic and rational reasoning, right? So ancient Greek society, they are not superstitious. They try to focus on logic, and reasoning, right? If you take English class, you probably were introduced to this concept called argument type. There's a triangle, and there are 3 argument types you can appeal to ESO, PASO, and LOGO. If you remember this in your English class, okay, that's actually introduced by Aristotle back to ancient Greek world, right? So you see how this ancient Greek scholars, they focus on reasoning, they promote logic, right? And they also advocate democracy. Everybody has a voice in the policy making, decision making, all right? So that kind of democracy was lost when Roman Empire fell to this so-called barbarian, Germanic people, Goth people, right? And they started to turn their society into this feudalism, right? And started to use religion to explain everything. So around 1350, right, Europeans started to get access to this ancient Greek civilization. How? Because of this, trade with Byzantine, right? That's one thing. Also, the threats from Turkish Ottoman Empire, okay, press upon Byzantine Empire, right? So you see some Byzantinian scholars, they started to relocate themselves to avoid, this possible threats from Ottoman, okay, Islamic power. So when this Byzantine scholars, they relocate themselves. Where is the ideal new home for them? Europe, right? Because after all, they are, they're the same descendant from Roman Empire, right? And Byzantine Empire, they continue to practice this Greek culture, right? They spoke Latin, right? That's Greek official language, right? So when these scholars, they relocate themselves back to Western Europe, they brought with them all their collection of this ancient Greek scholars' work. And that's how Europeans, when we say Europeans this time, is the Western Europe, okay? They get their hands on this ancient Greek book, literature, and philosophy, right? So that started this Renaissance. So Renaissance did not focus on religion practice because, again, ancient Greek society, there was no dominate religion at all, right? So that Renaissance kind of, walk up Europeans and started to invite Europeans to explain the world around them with, logic, with reasoning, with rational, arguments, all right? And that lead to this European society to question whatever they have been taught so far by their church, right? So the church definitely gonna argue, promote the idea, right? God creates everything, right? And whatever your church taught you is the only answer to explain the universe, right? So this was about to change. That's called Renaissance era. And this Renaissance era kind of opened the door to infinity. So all of a sudden, Europeans' mind is like, everywhere. Okay, so if God did not really create the world, who did, right? And they started to dig deeper, try to figure out the answer. And that's why we have scientific revolution. And that's when people started to talk about maybe our earth is not flat, it's round. Okay, so this scientific revolution further undermined the Roman Catholic Church's authority, right? Okay, so in that case, you see, this driving force, you can argue Renaissance, you can argue scientific revolution, you can also argue what? This rising gentry class. So it's up to you. All this evidence are logical to support your argument that the seeds of enlightenment was planted in the early 18th century. All right. And why is that? Because the previous movement kind of walk up Europeans, right? And invite Europeans to view the world in a whole new perspective. All right. So scientific revolution. Okay. Now we know why this seeds of enlightenment started to be planted in European society, right? Now let's see what exactly is this enlightenment movement, right? So enlightenment, it comes from this verb enlighten, right? So enlighten is that all of a sudden you realize the truth or the logic is enlightened, right? So enlightenment is that Europeans, they woke up, right? So in particularly in regards to political ideas, right? So now we're gonna introduce the first Enlightenment thinker is John Locke, right? So John Locke was the one who introduced this concept called nature rights and consent of the governed, all right? So John Locke, he produced this work called Second Treaty of the Government, right? So in his work, this book, Second Treaty of Government, he actually indicates that all humans are born with the rights to life, okay, liberty and property, right? So human rights actually is endowed, okay, by the creator. You are born with it. Your right did not, okay, come from your monarchs, okay, because your monarch is no difference than you, okay, if you really want to compare, right? Same thing, physically, right? One head, two eyes, one nose, one mouth, right? Two hands, two legs, 2 feet, right? And later on, the autonomous that was introduced to the European society, they even, cut open a corpse, one male, one female, and count the number of ribs. If the Bible's teaching is correct, God created Adam, and then to create a companion to Adam, God used one of Adam's ribs, right, and created Eva. if that teaching was true, then men should have one less rib than women. But when they count the corpse, the body, they realize men and women, they have the same counts of ribs. You see, so this is scientific revolution, open the door for Europeans to challenge this traditional church teaching, right? So that's why John Locke started to challenge that. Humans' right, okay, especially in Europe, right? Your rights is granted by your monarch. It's not right, okay? Your right is incorporated along with your birth, right? So this is called nature rights. Started to challenge what religious teaching and this concept of monarch control you, your monarch own you, right? So that's nature right. And then what? And then we have this consent of the governed, meaning what? So since all humans are born with the rights to life, liberty, and property, right? So why do we need a government? Well, a government is there when what? When the society grow too big. If the society is like an Indian tribes, right? You only have like dozens of people. You don't even need a government. You can just, govern yourself, right? You control your own family. That's good enough. But Europeans, it's a society already. So if you have no government, the society have no way, no pattern to manage their daily life, right? And that will ended up as a chaos, right? So in order to control the social stability, right? To maintain the social harmony, that's why people need a government, right? So government is actually created by the people. Why? Because people need protection from the government, right? So people are, in return, people will be willing to sacrifice some of their rights to trade for government's protection. So what rights we sacrifice? If you try to understand, okay, what rights we actually sacrifice in modern days, okay, I'll give you an example. You pay tax, right? That's the right you sacrifice. So you work, right? You are not a slave, you're free labor. So you work and you deserve the income you make, right? From your effort. That makes sense? So why do I need to give part of my income to the government? Well, if you don't do so, you don't pay tax, how do you expect your government to run the daily business? How do you expect the government to construct this public infrastructure, roads, bridge, you name it, parks, right? How do you expect the government to finance the education, right? So you want the protection from your government, the military defense, right? So it gonna give up some of your rights as your cost, your opportunity cost, right? So in this case, sure, I'm willing to pay tax, but once I do so, I have high expect from the government, right? So I did my part of work, and now I expect the government to do the same thing. You're gonna run this society with the best interest of your people in mind, right? So this is the consent of the governed, right? So government is instituted amongst people. People create the government to protect the people, right? And in order to do so, people are willing to sacrifice something, right? So the government must have the consent of a government, right? So the government is like, okay, now you want me to run this country, right? With what? With love? I'm sorry, I can't, right? I need money. And then people say, that makes sense. Sure, I will give up a proportion of my income. See, that's consent of the government, right? So if the government is ever taking any of this nature rights from you, right? You did not consent to it. The people have the right to or duty to overthrow the government. All right. So this is a very innovative and actually very bold idea, especially in that time period where Europe was still under this monarch's rule. So you can imagine how these monarchs react to this new ideas, right? No way, I don't think so. No way, Jose, right? You want to challenge my authority? So these enlightened thinkers, they were actually targeted by the monarchs big time, right? Because they're challenging the authority of their monarchs there, right? So that's nature rights come with your birth. And the consent of the governed, okay, because people need government to protect them. So I'm willing to compromise in some way, right? So as additionally, this is the consent of the governed, right? Between the government and the people. So, well, we need, something in record, right? So we need a written document as a set of rule, right? To limit the government's power. So you're gonna make sure, okay, we agree on that, right? So we're gonna have, in writing in case you change your mind, right? So I have some kind of evidence to force you to do so, right? So this limit of the government, okay, it's incorporated in the idea of constitution, right? So constitution was then introduced to European society, all right? So this written document, it's kind of like, a contract between the people and the government. But in John Locke's work, his second treaty of the government, he did not mention this term specifically, the term called social contract. He did not. Who actually mentioned the term is Rousseau. Okay, so it was Rousseau. Rousseau. He mentioned this social contract here. This is Rousseau, right? So Rousseau introduced the concept called social contract. So actually, he was talking about the same thing like John Locke's written document, constitution, right? So Rousseau kind of, make it concrete, this concept concrete with the term called social contract, all right? That's Rousseau. So we have John Locke and Rousseau, they're actually talking about a similar idea. Okay, just John Locke, they have their his work called Second Treaty of the Government and introduced this nature rights, consent of the governed, and he proposed that we should have a written document. But John Locke did not name this written document, right? He talked about constitution, yes, but he did not say this is a contract. It was Rousseau. He later introduced this concept called social contract, right? Social contract, all right? So who else we have? Since we're on this page, let's talk about this gentleman right here, Voltaire, okay? So Voltaire believed that all the chaos happened in Europe prior to this Enlightenment era is mainly because of what? Mainly because of this corruption in church, Roman Catholic Church, right? So when church started to cross the line and try to manipulate in politics, right? Church already lose their purpose of existence because church, you should focus on guiding people, right? To purify their soul for self-salvation. So their afterlife, their soul can ascend to heaven, right? And end this incarnation process. So once the church started to manipulate in politics, that's why European has all these conflicts, right? For example, 30 Years War, right? And then, for example, this Protestant Reformation, right? Okay, so to Voltaire, okay, Voltaire believed that to maintain Europeans' social stability, to avoid these unnecessary conflicts amongst European states, the best way is to separate state and church, all right? So separation of state and church was Voltaire's enlightened idea, all right? So only when religion focus on religious practice and the government focus on secular world, that's the possibility to maintain a stabilized European society. That makes sense? So that's Voltaire, right? So Voltaire, he proposed separation of state and church. So far, we have three enlightened thinkers, right? We have John Locke, we have Rousseau, we have Voltaire. There's one more. Which one? Montesquieu. Okay, so Montesquieu, he proposed what idea? He proposed, we do need to construct a new form of government, right? To ensure that the government has the people's best interest in mind and the social contract, everything, but still, that government cannot continue with Europeans, old-fashioned. Why? Because Europeans old-fashioned is what? One main government. It's your monarch, right? So it's your monarch controls everything. Remember, even if like in Britain, they have parliament, right? But still, the parliament is composed by nobles. So common people's interests were not very likely to be represented by either the parliament or the monarch. All right. In that case, Montesquieu believed that if we continue to have one main government, all this talk, social contract, is nonsense, right? Because one man controls all the power. You just wait and see. Corruption is a must, right? Okay, so he proposed the separation of power. Voltaire proposed separation of church and state. Montesquieu proposed separation of power amongst the government. How? His idea government should be like this. Constitution is the highest standard of any government, right? So based on this constitution, you then can construct 3 branches with what? With legislative in charge of making laws. And once they're done with making laws, they are done. The power, the right to exercise the law belongs to executive branch, all right? And then, so these 2 branches can check upon each other to prevent corruption, right? So the legislative branch create laws, but they don't have the power to exercise the law. So they would not design a law that in favor of themselves, right? Because they cannot exercise the law. The right belongs to executive, right? So they can check upon each other to prevent corruption, right? So legislative can impeach the head of executive, and the head of executive can veto whatever laws the legislative creates. So these 2, okay, can be allies, could be like rivals. Okay, it depends on the law itself, right? How about this judicial then? Well, judicial is the guardian angel of constitution, right? So judicial is there to protect the constitution, make sure the law created in this legislative branch is not violating constitution. At the same time, make sure the laws, now it's up to the executive how the executive is going to exercise the law, right? Is not violating the constitution either. So judicial can check upon these 2 branches, right? Make sure constitution is not violated. That's the separation of power within the government, right? So according to Montesquieu, only when the government's power is separated, we will not end up with the tyrannical government, because it's very difficult for you to convince the other 2 branches to corrupt together with you, right? So that's the idea of separation of power within government, right? So these 4 Enlightenment thinkers, you need to know them, okay? You will see their names in your multiple choice question and possibly short answer, all right? The source, all right? When you have a question 1 and 2, perhaps you will see their name, right? So these 4 Enlightenment thinkers, John Locke, Montesquieu, Voltaire, and Rousseau, right? Associated with concept of governed, right? Government's existence is there to protect people. That's John Locke, right? And Voltaire, separation of church and state, right? So you can expect a more stabilized European society, right? And Montesquieu proposed the separation of power within the state, within the government itself, all right? And then we have, what is that? Rousseau, social contract. So Rousseau echoes John Locke's idea, right? So John Locke's idea, John Locke's idea is all about what? Consent of government, right? And government's job is to protect people. So to make sure everybody agree to that, we need to write it down, a written document, right? So this written document, according to Rousseau, will be a social contract, right? So we covered these 4 Enlightenment thinkers, right? Can you remember their names associated with their idea? Is that I will try, right? So here I'm gonna show you how I remember them. And in according to their associate idea, right? This is how I remember. John Locke, right? John Locke believed government's priority job is to protect people, right? And you need to have the consent from the government, right? So John Locke, protect people, consent of government, right? Lock. Okay. Lock the door, protect your people. Or if you want to lock your people inside, right, like a quarantine, you need to ask the consent of the people. So John Locke, consent of the people, consent of the government. That's John Locke, right? Next one, Montesquieu, separation of power within the government into 3 branches, right? So look at his name. How many syllables are there? Montesquieu, 3 branches, right? So Montesquieu proposed the idea of separation of power within the government into 3 branches. That's how I remember. And then we have Voltaire. Voltaire proposed the separation of state and church, right? So here we only have 2 players you need to separate, right? So Voltaire, if you want to, if you look at his initial Voltaire, V, right? You use your index finger and middle finger to make a letter V. You're gonna separate these 2 fingers. So separation of church and state, 2 players, all right? That's Voltaire. And then we have Rousseau. This one's easier. Rousseau proposes social contract. Rousseau, social contract. I hope that help you to better remember their names and their associate ideas. All right. So is that helping? Let's see if that works. All right. It works for me though. I hope it also worked for you though. Okay. So Sunny without C. Okay, Sunny without C. Who proposed social contract? Sunny without C.
Lesson.
Thank you. All right, Russell, social contract, all right? Sunny with a C. Okay, what did the Voltaire propose? Voltaire, Sunny C. Are you there? Are you still with us? Oh, yes, okay, you're here. Okay. Oh, are you recovering from your COVID? Getting better? Good. I'm glad. So, Rousseau is a social contract, right? What did Voltaire propose? You can type Voltaire. Well, Voltaire, his initial is letter V. So, and the rest of you guys also try to ask yourself this question, right? Voltaire proposed what idea? V. Make a letter V with your 2 fingers. So Voltaire proposed what? Are you still typing? I'll give it some time and I will move on to the next one. John Locke promote what idea? Back to you, Jason. John Locke.
Locke promoted the idea.
Huh?
Locke promoted the idea of consent. So social contract, consent of the government.
Concept, but it's written document, but the term is not social contract, right? Social contract is Russell. Right. So John Locke, yes, consent of the government. Very good, because you want to lock people up, you need a consent of your people, right? And that leads to the last one is Montesquieu. Okay, Montesquieu, Jace. What's Montesquieu's main idea? Jace, are you there? Jace one? Yes. So you can unmute yourself. Is your microphone working today? Montesquieu, promote what idea? How many syllables are there in his name? Think about that. Okay, you can type your answer, but meanwhile, Lucas bye.
Yep.
What does Montesquieu promote?
It's like three branches or something like that.
Ah, yeah, 3 syllables, right? So separation of power. So the power of government is not controlled by one man. That makes sense? Good, good, good. All right. So is that helping you to memorize that? All these enlightened thinkers associated with their ideas. I hope it does. Okay. Because this part, it can be confusing sometimes. All right. But now, well, we know what is enlightenment, right? We know what is and why it happened, right? And we know how it find its way to influence European society, right? And then how influential, we haven't come to that part yet. We will. Okay, just be patient. We're coming there. So impact of enlightenment. So this enlightenment idea was brand new to European society, right? And so people started to see the logic behind this enlightenment thinking, right? So they started to use this enlightenment idea to challenge, to question their own government, right? And that's their associate what monarchs, right? King or queens, right? So that lead to the first impact would be American Revolution, all right? So if you need evidence to support your claim that enlightenment movement has a significant influence upon the Western world, and then you can say, okay, American Revolution, right? And that's the time American belief, right? No taxation without representation, right? And declaration of independence, right? And all this reflecting the Enlightenment idea, right? So that's American Revolution. And we have later on French Revolution as well, right? So it's like King Louis XVI, right? Who gave you this power, this right to constantly raise tax upon we, the third estate, right? So your first and second states, they never pay tax, while we, the third estate, that includes everybody except nobles and clergies, right? While we work the hardest, enjoy the least, right? So no way. And that's how French Revolution took place, right? And then later on, we have Latin American revolutions. That would be in the 19th century, right? So Latin American Revolution, it's a time when you see this former Spanish colonies, one after one, they claim their independence, all right? Started from Mexico and followed by Peru, and then what is it? Peru, and then Argentina, okay, Venezuela, you name it, right? And also there's another revolution. It's a little bit different, unique. It's called Haitian Revolution, okay? So basically all this, it's a, result of this Enlightenment movement, right? So Enlightenment movement, we know what it is and why it happened, how it finds its way, okay, to influence the society, right? And then we know how influential it is, right? So it led to this American Revolution, French Revolution, and Latin American revolutions, right? So let me show you how the comparison is like. Latin America, 1800, is still Spanish colonies, majority land, right? So green, color in green is Spanish colonies. It's how powerful Spain was all the way till 1800. And then the yellow one is Portuguese colonies. And we also have French, we have Dutch, we have Britain, right? But by 1830, take a look. Independent countries in purple, pretty much everywhere, right? Except Britain still control Guyana, and then Dutch still control this Guyana, and then the French also control this Guyana, right? So this Guyana being divided into three sphere of influence right here, all right? And then you see later on Haiti also claim its independence, right? So all this are result of Enlightenment movement, right? So cool. If we are, we can move on to the next topic, right? So Enlightenment lead to revolution, right? And this revolution, of course, it's a result of Enlightenment, but at the same time, there's other factors, right? So Enlightenment idea kind of woke up Europeans, but on top of that, we have another factor that is related to this revolution, right? It's called nationalism. Okay, so nationalism, who can define nationalism? Anybody? If you want to define nationalism, What would you say? Yes, Jason?
Towards one's country.
People what?
Loyalty towards one's country.
Loyalty, just loyalty?
Well, at a very basic sense, yes. If you take it any further, well, to the most extreme case in nationalism is Nazi Germany, where they saw everyone as inferior. That's an extreme case.
Right. So extreme case, right? So nationalism it is slightly different from patriotism, right? Patriotism is like, you know, your loyalty to your country for sure, okay? And it's like, you know, I love my country is awesome. But nationalism, okay, goes next level up. It's what my country's I love my country is awesome, but yours is not. Okay, that's nationalism. So nationalism will have this, I know, national identity, and this is somehow this superiority over other nations. This kind of spirit is called nationalism. All right. So nationalism could be formed through what? Your nation's achievement, right? So your country is so awesome, right? To a point no one else can compete against your land, right? Your government, your country, right? So that would form this nationalism for sure, right? So nationalism is the strong recognition of your identity in associate with your government, okay, your country, right? To a point you believe everyone else is inferior, okay? That's nationalism. So this kind of ism, belief system, is definitely gonna lead to certain consequences, right? So what kind of consequences we're talking about? So nationalism is like, no, my country is the best. Okay, your country is not. So it could be what? Since my country is so good, right? Why should I subject to you, right? So we want to claim our independence, right? We want to separate from you. Excuse me. So for example, what? American Revolution, right? So finally, these colonists in America, they came to this identity, called themselves Americans, right? It was not like that before. During the colonial era, the Americans actually called themselves in regarding to their colony. So people live in Virginia, they call themselves Virginian. People from Massachusetts, Massachusettsian. Even sometimes people from Boston, Bostonian, right? So they have this regional identity. They do not view America as a whole, as a unified country. But the eve of this revolution, okay, in America, that's the time they come up with this identity, called themselves American, right? Well, so American believe, okay, they have their own identity, they have their own culture and economic development, everything. Why should we continue to subject ourselves to Britain? That could be an example, right? And later on, you could have like, the Latin American Revolution as well, nationalism. So nationalism will lead to this result. It's called independent movement. That's the time people believe we are no longer just a second-class citizens. We are not supposed to subject ourselves to this so-called mother country. Okay, so in this case, you would have this nationalism identity formed, and you have the desire to claim your independence. All right. The other possibility is what? Nationalism, right? So since we are such a good people, right? No one else can compete against us, right? And why don't we just form our own kingdom or empire? Why should we still live under this city-state status, right? So typical example would be Italian unification, German unification, right? So within this so-called Holy Roman Empire, right? They have loosened Germanic tribes, right? Everywhere within this so-called Holy Roman Empire, right? And they're all Germanic people. So in that case, you see, since they're so proud of themselves about their identity of Germanic people, so why not form our very own empire? Why continue to subject ourselves within this so-called Holy Roman Empire? That doesn't make sense, right? So we have German unification. That same concept logic applied to Italian unification. So nationalism will lead to two possible results, right? One is the recognition of your own identity. So you want to form your kingdom or nation. So you want to separate from whoever is governing you at this point. And then second possibility is you want to unify yourself so you can form your own state, your own kingdom, your own empire. Not empire, you're the same people, so kingdom only, all right? So that's nationalism. And that would have this revolution, right? So independence revolution, or like, unification, that's also revolution. Not available before, okay? All right, so enough of this nationalism versus revolution. Let's take a look at what we need to know. We're gonna introduce first American Revolution, all right? So American Revolution is what? It's a result of this 7 Years War. If you took American history, you should probably know what happened that time. We call Eve of Revolution. It was the competition between Britain and Britain and France, right? Over this territory, okay, colonies, right? So when there is a war against Prussia, because Prussia is like, the strongest Germanic city-states within Holy Roman Empire, they started to show sign of this, intention to dominate Europe. So Europeans' philosophies is they dislike a sole power in Europe rising up and dominate the rest European states. They disapprove of this concept, right? But at the same time, each one of them also try to rise up to a point they can, commission the rest of the European states, right? So it's like, this paradox. They don't want to see a particular state rise up to power, but at the same time, each European states, they want to rise up, okay? So that explains why Europe has this constant conflicts against each other. That makes sense? So that's the European problem. So when Prussia started to show sign of, rising up, Europeans, they team up and, confront Prussia, not Russia, Prussia, right? And so France being one of the alliance in Europe to, confront Prussia, that's the time Britain seized the opportunity. He actually did what? Britain actually sided with Prussia. Britain actually sided with Prussia, while most of other European states, they team up to confront Prussia. So why Britain, being so such an exception to sided with Prussia, is because Britain was seeking for the opportunity to declare war upon France. But if you don't have a proper justification to declare war upon your so-called enemies, you have no justified war, all right? And even if you claim victory, you will not be recognized by the rest of the world, right? So England sided with Prussia, not because they really like Prussia, right? It's simply because they need this chance to declare war upon France. So France, as one of the member states in this European alliance, to target Prussia, right? And then Britain's logic was very easy. Your enemy's enemy is your ally. So France, in this case, France's enemy would be Prussia. So Britain sided with Prussia, right? So that's the 7 Years War. 7 Years War, right? So the war started from Europe, okay, but gradually expanded to the colony. So Britain and France, they confront they engaged in this war called 7 Years War in America. And the result was French surrendered, okay? So French surrendered and, appealed to peace negotiation, peace treaty. And then because of this war, Britain annexed French colonies in North America, including modern days Quebec, Canada, including modern days Central Time Zone, okay? The east of Appalachian Mountain, west of the mountain, east of the Mississippi River, north of Great Lakes, and south of Great Lakes and north of Florida, okay? Florida was a Spanish colony at that time. So this victory should be something that worth celebration, but it backfired. Okay. So it's a curse in disguise to Britain, right? Because this victory over this 7 years war, right? They defeat their longtime enemy friends in America. So these colonists, they feel so proud of being called English subjects, because during the war they actually fought side by side with their monarchs, okay, their mother country, and they claimed victory, right? So it was an honor. You could fought along with your mother country, and the mother country is showing the sign to become the dominant state in Europe, right? So you being a subject within this, Great Britain Empire, you have this sense of, nationalism. But later on, because of this war, the very same war, right? 7 years war, forced British government to raise tax in the colonies, all right? Because the war aren't cheap, right? The monarch need to deal with this financial issue. Okay, this a deficit. They definitely need to find new source of revenue. So they decided to raise the tax in the colonies, right? Well, paying tax is, citizens' duty, like we talk about, right? Consent of government, right? I'm willing to pay tax because I have a government, right? Provide for the social needs, right? But that's the time this no taxation without representation started to derive. Okay, and what is that? That's Enlightenment idea. Enlightenment idea. So if you take a close look of Americans' Declaration of Independence, you really, really will see all this reflection of enlightened idea. Okay, for example, we hold the following truths to be self-evident, right? That all men are created equal, right? And we are endowed with our unalienable rights, human rights, nature rights, right? Endowed by the Creator, right? And among which is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So a government then will be instituted among people. See, consent of government, right? That you can see that everywhere in the Declaration of Independence, reflecting Enlightenment idea, right? And later on, Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution also mirror this Enlightenment idea, all right? So that's American Revolution in 1776, right? Then we have French Revolution. Again, French Revolution influenced by this Enlightenment idea, right? So this divine right of king claimed by King Louis XVI, along with his queen, right? Marie Antoinette, okay, the princess of Austria Empire, right? So French Revolution, again, it's all about this taxation, right? So it's a little bit different. American Revolution is the colonists confronted their mother country. But French Revolution, this revolution actually took place on their own homeland. It's the peasants rise up and overthrow their king, King Louis XVI, right? Eventually they beheaded their king, right, by this guillotine, right? Also the queen, right, Marie Antoinette. So this French Revolution, slightly different from American Revolution. American Revolution is to claim independence from their mother country, while French Revolution is to replace the government. Same thing, still reflect this Enlightenment idea, right? Okay, so what document we have to support this French Revolution? It's a result of Enlightenment idea. Well, it can talk about their Declaration of Rights of Men and Citizen, right? Just like the Declaration of Independence in America. We also have French Constitution of 1791, right? But US, America, after the independence, yeah, America experienced this 6 years of chaos under this confederation, okay? But France, they would have to withstand other European states' attack, right? To restore the monarch, because how dare you, French people, you beheaded your king, right? So if this pattern, this trend, somehow find a way to my own kingdom, I don't want to die, right? So these European monarchs, they team up again, confront France, right? That's the alliance. Okay, that's called Napoleon War, actually, later on. Okay, So this chaos lead to this reign of terror, right? Guilting, I mean not guilting, Jacobins, right, in control, and use this revolution as an excuse to target, personal enemies, right? And the guiltings, also known as the national razor at that time, the most busy machine. Okay, people line up, okay, to be, beheaded. That's French Revolution, right? And after French Revolution, we also have a Haitian, right? But this Haitian is a little bit different. Haitian Revolution, it's conducted by the former enslaved Africans in Haiti. So Haitian was a French colony. Look at the time. When did it happen? 1792, right? And it was a French colony. And what happened in France in 1792? Reign of terror, right? They already killed their own king, right? So this kind of behavior influence Haiti, of course, right? So under the Toussaint Louverture leadership, these Africans, the former slaves, they rose up and they tried to claim their own independence and establish the very first African state, right? So they made it, and they still adopt this, they also adopt this Enlightenment idea, definitely. Because if you want to start this revolution, you need to find a justification, right? What if you win over this war, right? You're gonna need the war's recognition and, agree that, you are a newborn country, right? But if you don't have a proper justification to justify your revolution, you will be labeled as rebellion. You see? So you see any revolution, it will accompany with a whatever document, declaration of whatever. So this declaration of independence, the declaration of rights of men and women, right? And these all can be viewed as like, a justification to the course of revolution. And the audience is towards whom? Towards the world. And of course, to your your oppressed government, you may claim, but most importantly is what? Is the world, because you need the world's recognition, and perhaps even better, the world's support, right? Okay. So you have revolution paired with the associate documents to justify their course of action, right? So Haitian Revolution, it took Haitian like 12 years, right, to really achieve their goal. And actually, when Haitian was like, fighting against their mother country, that would be not a mother country, their control, their oppressors, that would be French, right? French government. Actually, some white people, okay, the petite white and the big white in Haiti, they actually supported Haitian Revolution, because they also have this consent towards this tyrannical French government, okay, back home. So with the help of this white community, and eventually Haitian claim its independence. But too bad, after their independence, you may expect that they will pay their gratitude, right, to this white individual households, right? You help us during the revolution, so we should return your favor. But no, Haitian Revolution, after they finally being recognized by the French government, right? They conducted this, what we call white massacres. Right here, white massacres. Why? Because they're afraid that in their mind, these Africans, even though some white individual help out this Haitian Revolution, right? But in Haitians' mind, you white people are all the same, all right? We gotta make sure, okay, no remaining power influence from your white society exists in Haiti that would attempt to what? To colonize us again and enslave us again, right? So in that case, this 1804 white massacres happened, right? So it kind of shocked the world though, because the world was like, how could you, right? So this white community help you out, but as a result, this is how you thank people. But Haitian has their logic as well. They're doing so to prevent the possible threats in the future. All right. So that's Haitian Revolution. So where's Haiti anyway? It's here. This is Cuba, right? This is Florida. This is Cuba, and here's Havana. Okay. The major port, and this is Haiti, right here. So Haiti is still a republic as of today. And Haiti's Haitian Revolution actually set historical record though. After their independence, Haiti became the very first state that was established by former slaves. Never before. Okay, so it was the former slaves that managed to establish their own country other than their home. They're Africans, but now they have a country in Haiti, right? So that's Haitian Revolution, right? Next, we have a Latin American Revolution. Mainly like a Chile, Argentina, right? But before we cover this Latin American Revolution, let's take a break, all right? Let's take 10, all right? So let's take 10 and come back in 10:40 China time, all right? I'm gonna mute myself, but I'm gonna keep this screen sharing on, all right? So let's take 10. Okay, 1 minute. Let's resume in 1 minute. If you're back, type 1, please. Ren, right there, stand by. Thank you. Jason, Lucas, Sunny, C, thank you. Jace, thank you. Welcome back. Nina, welcome back. Alex, welcome back. Nicolette, welcome back. All right. Okay, so we can continue with this Latin American Revolution. Okay, all this political revolution, when we talk about Latin America, their cause, they share something in common. It's the causation. Causation is the disconsent towards their government, right? So government could be their monarch, could be their mother country, all right? Pretty much the same, right? So disconsent towards the government, why? Because of this influence from Enlightenment ideas, right? Like we talked earlier, that for colonists to pay tax to help your mother country to recover from this war debts, it's kind of like, for sure, right? Especially when we place ourselves in the 18th century. Nothing wrong with that, but it's the long existing this neglect sovereignty, right? So colonists gradually take this freedom, independence for granted, right? And difference is the Haitian Revolution. So Haitian Revolution were conducted by slaves, right? It's not like they have, rights, independence, or like a liberty granted to them. It's because they are also influenced by this Enlightenment idea, and since their mother country has their own internal problem, why not seize the opportunity and claim your own independence? That's a Haitian Revolution. And French Revolution is, again, Enlightenment idea, but it's towards their country, okay, their government, and they are not colonists. They're simply just the social bottom peasants, right? And being pushed to the corner to a point they have nothing else to lose, so they fight back, right? Latin American, on the other hand, similar to American Revolution. So American Revolution is what? This mother country denied colonists right to participate in government, but at the same time demand these subjects to fulfill their citizen duty, right? And not to mention these Americans, they were actually being viewed as a second-class citizen because you're born in America, you're not born in Europe. What's so special about Europe at that time? Well, Europeans believe in their own culture, right? See, Europe made it, okay, from irrelevant states to this, world dominating leaders, right? So Europe kind of, evolved with this, again, nationalism, right? And highly recognize their own civilization, their achievement, everything. So if you are born in Europe, you're born into the golden age of civilization. That's according to Europeans' belief. So Americans, sorry, even though we share some sort of same blood, right? But you were not born into European civilization. You're born in America. And in Europeans' mind, America was simply a wilderness, a land that without civilization. Right, it's a land without civilization, right? You used to be home to Indians. That's how Europeans view whoever born and live in America, right? So similar idea applied to Latin America Revolution. Okay, how? Latin America Revolution took place between 1819 to 1830. Okay, and gradually one after one, Latin Americans, okay, they seek for their independence. All right. So before we talk about that, we're gonna introduce this. This is Spanish racial hierarchy. Remember, we kind of mentioned that back to the age of exploration, right? So when Europeans discovered the New World, right? Who recall Spanish colonial policy? It's basically how Spanish monarch encouraged its their own subjects to go to America to colonize the land for their monarchs. And this is called what kind of system? Anybody? If you're willing to go, the land is yours. Whatever is on the land is yours, including people who live there. So what kind of system is that called? Anyone?
Charter companies?
Not really. That's British and French. Spanish is government controlled colonization because the government want to possess 100% profits from this colonization. And charter company, that's a good thinking though, but charter company is encourage private sectors like business entrepreneurs, right, to obtain for the charter, and then you can have the government's support and endorsement to go to the New World to colonize. But Spanish government used something different. Give you land, whatever is within this land is yours. You're the landlord. Anyone else? It's a Spanish term starting with the letter E. E. Anyone?
Encomienda.
Thank you, Ren. Bingo. Good job. Good job. All right. So encomienda, right? So encomienda system encourage young able men to go to America, right? To colonize the land, control the people for your monarch. And return, okay, in return to to reward your courage, right? To reward your royalty to your monarch, you receive the land and you become the landlord, okay, encomienda. Okay, and because of this encouragement of their own young men, able men to go to America, so the interracial marriage was actually granted by the monarchs, all right? So you will see in Spanish colonies, a new Spanish racial hierarchy was then established. Okay, on the social top, it's called peninsulares. So if you're a European born in the Europe and you decided to go to America, you will be considered as the top of this social hierarchy. Why? Once again, Europe was the land of civilization, right? So you're born in Europe, you brought civilization with you to America, all right? And you may have, your family you created there, you established there. You marry an Indian lady, okay, or African lady, or you later on marry a European lady, and you brought her along to the New World because now you're a landlord, right? Possible. And you have your children born in America. So even though they're Europeans, right? Daddy and mommy, they're also Europeans, okay? They're both like, peninsula race, but their children, their children were born in Americas, right? So they become Creoles. So Creoles is Europeans born in the Americas, right? That would be the second class in this social racial hierarchy. And then we have mestizos. It's a mixed blood between Europeans and American Indians, all right? And then we have mulattoes. It's a mix between Europe and Africa. And then we have Zambo. It's African mixed with Indians. Okay, so this social racial hierarchy was created in Spanish colonies, right? And that would be a problem to specific which social class then. Peninsulares, they should be fine. They're on the hierarchy top. Creoles, okay, on the other hand, they would have problem with this social hierarchy though. How come? They are definitely Europeans, right? But in colonies, they're being labeled as a second class citizens simply because they were born in America. Right, so these Creoles gradually started to sense this, discrimination, despite they carry the same blood, right, European blood, but still, okay, peninsulares were looked down upon Creoles, and later on, influenced by American Revolution. So American Revolution, same thing, right? You are Americans, yeah, you call yourself English subjects, but we are different class, different level, right? you're born in this barbarian land, right? So you're not a representation of European civilization. All right. So American Revolution, to some point, you can say, yeah, American Revolution has something to do with this, social, racial hierarchy, but it's not like Spain. They actually created this system, but in British colony America, no such system. Right. They view themselves as English subjects, but the problem is their English fellows did not recognize that. They recognize American as a second-class citizen, just like Creoles in Spanish colonies, right? So a nationalism identity soon formed, right? Just like America, for the first time, they call themselves Americans, no longer Virginians versus Bostonians, right? Okay, so in this case, Creoles would be the one who started this revolution in Latin America. Okay, and that's also due to nationalism, right? So who started it? Under two leaders, guide. One is Simon de Bolivar, the other one is Jose de San Martin, right? And do they have this written document? Okay, to justify their course of action? Yeah, it's called Jamaica letter. All right, so Jamaica letter, similar to American Declaration of Independence, French Revolution's Declaration of Rights of Men and Women. Okay, so that would be the Latin American Revolution. Okay, you do not need to like memorize the name, but if you could, that could serve as your evidence in essay. Right, so this is how we look at this one before, right? How nearly 30 years, how Spain lose pretty much everything, right? Also Portugal, right? Become Brazil, right? Okay. Now we talk about the nationalism lead to this independent movement, right? Because why do we have to subject ourselves, okay, to someone else? We're good enough, okay, to claim our own independence, right? And let's talk about unification then. Unification is also a result of this nationalism, right? So unification is, since we are so great, right? Why not form our own country, our own state, right? So this idea started to prevalent in Italian peninsula. So Italian peninsula, ever since the fall of Roman Empire, it went back to this previous state, meaning what? In this Italian peninsula, you see scattering city-states. So after the fall of Roman Empire, the previous capital, Rome, okay, would be like a home to this Roman citizens, right? When we say a fall of empire, it's the government that is gone. The people remains, right? They do not go anywhere, right? So since they don't have the centralized government, might as well form your own local ones, right? So they have like city states, okay, and in that time you will see particular Italian city states started to demonstrate their economic growth, okay, especially those along the coastline, trade city, okay. So that's what in this prior to this Renaissance, right? So prior to Renaissance, Byzantine was still there, right? So trade between Asia and Europe was still available. European merchants, they could freely travel to Byzantine's land because they used to be the same family, right? And which city in particular? Anatolia, right? So Anatolia was like the major trade city in Byzantine Empire. And then that's the same trade city Asian merchants will arrive, right? So Asian merchants come to Anatolia, and then Europeans does the same thing, right? So this group of two groups of merchants, they meet in Anatolia in Byzantine and they trade, right? So most Europeans merchants, they actually came from Italy. Why is that? Let me see if I have any map. Not here, but Italy, it's in the middle of this Mediterranean Sea, right? And especially Italy is a peninsula, right? Meaning 3 sides of the land, it actually has the access to waterway. So from Italy to Byzantine, the fastest way would be water, right? Waterway. So that give the merchants in these 3 cities in Italian peninsula the benefit, the privilege to sort of like monopolize Mediterranean Sea trade. Okay? So they would travel to Byzantine and exchange with Asian merchants, and they come home to Italy, okay, and they were starting to sell to Western Europe, okay. So that would enable the Italian city-states, especially has the access to the waterway, become a wealthy trading city, right? So Italy, once again, all these trading cities, they rise up, demonstrate this economic prosperity, right? And they still view themselves as the rightful descendants from the previous glorious Roman Empire, right? So since they have this identity, right, they believe we are too good to be like separated from each other. Let's unite it and form our empire. And that's how Italy, okay, Italy in 1870, okay, they have this unification. All right, so Italy become a unified kingdom. All right, that's the nationalism, okay, that kind of drive the Italian unification. All right, so this has nothing to do with this enlightenment, right? Enlightenment is then drive people to break up with the tyrannical government, right? But unification is the nationalism. People believe in their own identity and believe we are too good to be separated. Okay, let's form our own empire, right? So Italian Empire, kingdom was then formed. Same thing happened in Germany, right? Germany, after the fall of Roman Empire, right? We have this Frank people, Goth people came into this West Europeans, right? West Europe. And then there's a monarch called Charlemagne. Okay, he established kingdom of Frank, right? And later on, this kingdom was divided into 3, right? To his 3 sons. Then we have France, modern day France, right? And then Central Asia, and then not Central Asia. Okay, where's that? Sweden, that part. And then we have a Holy Roman Empire, right? So this Holy Roman Empire is a weird name for this empire, though. First of all, it's not holy because they're a Christianity, right? And it's not Roman. They have nothing to do with the Roman blood. And it's not an empire because the definition, the qualification for an empire is what? You're gonna have a centralized government to begin with, right? And after that, the empire's territory will be constant expanded, right? And number 3, you're gonna govern over a big diversity of people within your empire, right? The Holy Roman Empire, not. Okay, it's not an empire because it's not a centralized government. It's loosely, okay, constructed Germanic city-states, okay, and under the prince's control, right? So there's no centralized government. So wait a second, isn't the king of Spain also assumed this emperor title to rule over Holy Roman Empire? Yeah, yes and no. Okay, not always though, because this Holy Roman Empire, the emperor was through election. That's not empire to begin with, right? So Holy Roman Empire, not holy nor Roman nor empire, right? So it's loosely constructed German city-states, all right? That's Holy Roman Empire. But under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck of Prussia, remember Prussia? I mentioned that, right? Prussia was rising up, and that result in the alliance of European states, right? Team up, try to suppress this possible dominant power in Europe. And that's the time Britain sided this with Prussia, recall? And that led to the 7 Years' War, right? Anyway, so Prussia, under Bismarck's leadership, managed to unite all the Germanic tribes, all right? So this new born empire. It's called German Empire, okay? And they have their emperor, of course, right? So when we refers to German Empire, they're actually, you can say three. The first Germanic Empire would be the Holy Roman Empire, okay? Even though it was not really an empire, right? But it's Germanic people living here. So Holy Roman Empire is the first German Empire. And then the second empire would be this one that constructed by Bismarck of Prussia, okay? So this is the second German Empire. And the third, if you want to argue the third, that would be the one Hitler attempt to build, all right? The Third Reich, right? So during the interwar and World War II, Hitler's ambition is to build a Third Reich, and that would be the third German Empire, right? So now you know, first is Holy Roman Empire, second is the German Empire under Prussia's leadership, okay? And who's behind that? Otto von Bismarck, right? Well, so unification of Germany and Italy, it's also the product result of this nationalism, right? That different from independent, right? Independence is the result of nationalism paired with what? Enlightenment idea, right? So that conclude our age of political revolution, right? So we finished this one is what? The Enlightenment idea. As a result, it shaped political revolution, right? And revolution, some exception or unique cases would be Haiti, right? Haitian Revolution, and also German unification and Italian unification, right? So that's the result, impact upon Enlightenment idea along with nationalism, right? Cool. Questions so far? Questions so far? Nah? In that case, we can move on to this. Capitalism. Okay. So capitalism is an economic concept, right? If you study econ, then you know what is capitalism, all right? Since we're talking about economic concept anyway, so let's introduce this three-ism altogether. Capitalism versus socialism versus communism, right? So this three-ism, they're all economic terms. Surprise, right? Communism is actually an economic system, economic term. But now we use this communism to refer to politics as well, all right? So first of all, this three-ism, right? Capitalism, socialism, communism. Who came first? Capitalism, right? So capitalism, it's a product towards the late mercantilism. That's another ism, okay? So mercantilism, we recall, right? It's the European monarch try to obtain trade surplus, right? By exporting more than importing, right? How? You know, increase their own productivity and then find a market in foreign states and sell them, right? So in order to improve their productivity, they would obtain their raw material from their colonies, right? So that's the mercantilism era. And mercantilism, again, the whole market was planned and regulated heavily by the monarch along with the guilds. So guild, it's a organization or institution that regulate all the commerce, all the business, right? So back then, during this mercantilism era, if you want to invest in business, you won't feel very excited, okay? Because if you want to invest in business compared to today, you have like, plans, ambitions, dreams, right? And you will kind of, see to it yourself step by step, right? And you have like a 1 year plan, 5 year plans, okay, and 10 years plan, right? That's how you plan your business, right? And so it can be creative. It can be like, creative, innovative, right? So you can always adjust your plan according to, the reality. But mercantilism, all right, the guilt does not allow you to do so. once you're in this industry, this business, right? So let's say you want to be in let's say like, you know, textile, right? You want to be in this textile industry, fine. The guilds will tell you exactly what you need to do, okay, to set up your initial investment, okay, and then they're gonna tell you how much can you produce per month or like a per season, per year. And then as long as your labor force, they will tell you where to hire your labor. They even tell you how much you must pay your labor. All right. So everything was like a designed, predetermined by these guilds, right? Not just all. Once you go through all this production, right, you're ready to, like, you know, shine in this market to make a fortune. But sorry, the market price is also determined by this guilds. So basically, if you're in business that time in Europe under mercantilism economic system, you don't even need to write a business plan. The guilds will do that for you. You have everything awaiting for you. You just follow their principle, their policy, and that's all you need to do. And you start your business. There you go. Okay. So it's kind of like, you know, you join a franchise today, right? Like you wanna open a, you know, fast food restaurant, and you decided to be part of this McDonald's family, right? So if you join them, they give you the whole package, right? Tell you how to run your business, how to set your sales goal, whatever. Okay. So that's mercantilism, right? So mercantilism, the whole market was controlled by the monarch and the guilds, right? So there's not much of, like, you know, innovation, right? And people are lack of the incentive to invest, right? And later on, this gentry class, right? The new rising class, okay, new social elites, gentry class. So gentry class, they started to accumulate wealth, right? To a point they demand seats in the government, right? And the more wealth you possess, the more you have to lose, right? So you want political power, and then your property is protected, right? So at that point, you don't have to worry about, you know, maybe one day my monarch will just take away whatever I own. No, you don't have to, because now you have you know, your own people sitting in the government, and you can come up with, you know, whatever necessary laws you believe, right, can protect your personal property, right? And then after that stage, what do you want? You have fortune to begin with, and then you want power in politics to protect your fortune, right? And you get it. What's next step? You have fortune, you have power. Next step, more fortune, right? So this old system called mercantilism not really working for you now, all right? You want opportunity to realize your dream, to exercise your plan, right? So you want to get rid of this government controlled economic system. You want to get rid of this this guilds, right? Okay, then we have the birth of capitalism. Birth of capitalism, right? So capitalism, it's a new form of economic system, all right? So what is capitalism? It's secure the equality of opportunity. So basically, let me give you a preview of this three-ism, right? Capitalism, socialism, communism. This three-ism, they all guarantee equality. Is it really? Yeah. Just, the equality they guaranteed is slightly different. Capitalism guarantee the equality of opportunity, right? So the market is open to everyone, right? As long as you have ideas, you have, capitals, right? If you don't have money, you can, persuade people who do to finance you, right? But you need ideas, you need capital. After that, you need courage, right? Because you're about to invest whatever you have into this idea, right? So you've made it work. Congratulations, right? You just sit and wait, and then you have your profit coming to you. Okay. And if you failed, sorry, you tried. Thank you for participation, right? Come again next time when you're ready. So that's capitalism. They provide equality in opportunity. All right. As long as you have an idea, capital, and courage, you can enter this market and invest in your own business. All right. That's capitalism. But after that, there's no protection or guarantee whatsoever. Right. You could succeed, you could fail. So it's all up to you. Do you want to take the risk? Right. So that explains why under capitalism, you will see this business, they tend to focus on one goal only, which is maximize your profit, right? That's understandable. You are risking whatever you have, right? And hoping for a big profit out of it, out of your investment, right? So, of course, as soon as you are in business, your only agenda is to maximize your profit. Otherwise, why bother risk what you have, right? Just find a job, right? And have a stable income, right? Then you don't have to worry about losing everything, right? So that's capitalism. And that is why capitalism eventually is going to lead to what? Social wealth gap, right? Because people, they made their initial investment and they worked, right? You can say, you're blessed, you're lucky. But behind that, there are more reasons why they made the big success, right? And they're gonna, in terms, use the profit they claimed from the investment to expand their business practice, right? So the bigger your business scale is, the more revenue you can expect, right? And then once you expand your business to a economic scale, right? Then you have the privilege in the market. Why? Because you can enjoy the low cost of production because you buy in bulk quantity, because your production is so big, and then you can negotiate with your vendors, right? And get discount on your raw material. And small business, they don't have the privilege, right? That's the time we call economic scale, right? And then if you continue to expand your business, may not be a good idea, okay? So that's the job for your economists to tell you, should you or should you not, okay? Continue to expand your business scale, right? So that's capitalism, right? So the rich become richer, okay? The poor become poorer. So a very sharp contrast, social class was then invented. Working class versus the bourgeoisie, also known as middle class, right? So that's capitalism. Guarantee equality in opportunity, right? How about socialism? Socialism also guarantee equality, but in a different way. It guarantees there is no social wealth gap. Okay, so it guarantees your social status equality. So socialism, the Manifesto of Communists, right? Introduced by Karl Marx, right? But his original concept was socialism. Meaning what? According to Marx, actually, we have the next slide is about Marx right here. According to him, right? The reason why our world witnessed the constant conflicts, battles, wars, right? It's not just because of religion, right? Back to the Enlightenment era. It is simply because there are what? Class conflicts. So Karl Marx, he studied this social phenomena and he come to the conclusion, all this disability, okay, this chaos, all derive from this social conflicts, okay, social class conflicts, because, okay, the have tend to oppress the have-nots, and the have-nots to a point when they have nothing else to lose, they fight back, right? So, and this social class conflicts is also mainly because every social class, they're aiming to have their own private property, right? Private property. Once it's yours, no way you will give it up, right? So you're not occupied to keep it, okay, to, as long as you can. Okay, so good example, Marx actually provide evidence. He said, look, slaves versus masters, right? It's a class conflicts and it's private property because the masters believe they own the slaves, right? And then later on, okay, we have peasants versus nobles, right? So peasants, they are the have-nots, right? And nobles. What do we mean? What do we mean by like private property? Yeah, don't forget feudalism, right? The land was granted to you by your monarch, right? And whatever is on this land is now yours, including the people. So peasants belong to you, right? Spanish encomienda again, right? You own people, you see. So this class conflicts can also be back up proof correct by this example, say peasants versus nobles, right? So slave versus master, right? So we have this social class conflicts, and as a result, we could use this Haitian's revolution, right? As a result, so the have-nots fight back. Peasants versus noble, that's everywhere, right? And then you can say, oh, French Revolution. It's a result of this, class conflicts. And then now we have working class versus middle class, right? So working class versus middle class, then we would have the conflicts between later on unions and monopolists, right? So monopolists versus union. So workers through this, century long struggling, they finally learn something. As individual, we stood no chance to come from this bourgeoisie, this middle class, right? But if you team up, together we're stronger. That's why we have labor union formed later on, right? So working class versus middle class. So that's Carl's his argument. All the problem, all the social conflicts is because of this class conflicts, right? So if we can eliminate this social class, then we would have a utopian-like society. How? And the social class is mainly because this concept of what? Private property, right? So private property was actually the agenda thought by this gentry class, remember? After the age of exploration, we have new rising social elite called gentry class. They are the one who fight so hard to get voice in the government so they can protect their private property, right? So private property, this concept was then introduced to the world, right? And then there's the concept of private property, right? It's the reason why people become greedy, right? People become, losing of the conscience, right? Anything you do that can help you to generate more profit, you do it, right? So this private property lead to this social class, right? And this social class lead to social conflicts, right? So we want to solve this problem, we gonna focus on the very source, right? The very original source, that's private property. So here comes the socialism. You want to secure the social status equal, right? How? Eliminate private property. So we have a social wealth gap, right? Between the have and the have-nots, right? So in this case, Marx proposed that. He actually give you step-by-step owner's manual. Step one is what? Step one is revolutionary phase. So he actually argued that any reasonable middle class, this bourgeoisie, you should voluntarily give up the this extra profit you claimed from your business, because Marx believed that the reason you can accumulate all this wealth is because not because you own this factory, because your workers, they are the one who really contribute to the production. So the owners of the factory will then be able to sell and trade in the market, right? But the workers, they're being underpaid, while the bourgeoisie, okay, your job is so easy, sitting in the office with air conditioning on. That's how I know air conditioning, right? And just enjoy whatever you want to, okay, and just wait for the profit to come to you, right? And it's so not fair. So Marx say, any reasonable bourgeoisie, you're supposed to voluntarily give up the profit that you do not deserve, and give back this additional profit that you do not deserve to your workers because they deserve it, right? But Marx also understand one human psychology principle. No way. No way I would give up whatever I believe I owned, right? So capitalism is a good example, right? So I take the risk to invest everything I have, and then most of the thing I have, aiming for big profit in return. So when I enjoy the profit, I actually deserve it because you did not see the risk I'm taking, right? So if I invest in this business, I believe it's good future, but ended up losing everything. So that time, what do you say, socialist, right? Are you going to compensate me? I don't think so, right? So why do I have to punish when I make a profit and I do not get any support, right? When I lose my money, right? So capitalism also have their arguments, but socialists, they believe that all this chaos is because of this private property, right? So this extra profit, all these bourgeoisies should voluntarily give up and give back to the workers. But Marx is saying, I know it's very unrealistic, right? So here comes, he come up with this step-by-step owner's manual, how to realize a socialist community. Easy. Since the bourgeoisies, okay, they are not going to give up their profit voluntarily, so we rob them. Okay, so we rob them of their wealth. So he actually encouraged this revolutionary phrase. So you rise up and you take private property. Okay, you just take them away. So that's rob, right? Robbery. And then if you rob these bourgeoisies and keep whatever to yourself, that's no difference, right? You're just another bourgeoisie. So how do we take care of this stolen fortune? He gave it to the government temporarily, right? So government would temporarily control all private property, right? And then later on, the government would then distribute it evenly, either as lend money or a resource, whatever. So the government knows the best. The government then can distribute this resource, this property, evenly back to the society, right? So think in this way. If everybody received the same portion of this distribute wealth from the government that people stole from the bourgeoisie, right? So whatever you have now, I also have it because we received the same portion from the government, right? Is there gonna be jealousy anymore? No, because whatever you have, I also possess that, right? So there's no social class between you and me, right? So eventually, Marx believed this will lead to communist phase. So communist is what? Since whatever you have, I have too, right? There's no desire to show off or desire to work harder, right? Because even if you work harder, the government will redistribute the wealth anyway. Okay, but socialist is like a guaranteed social status equality, right? So not necessarily means people will suffer. Okay, it's just no, whatever you have, I have too. Okay, so nothing to compete against each other. So that with that in mind, you see all borders are eliminated, right? All humans, communal shares, all private property and goods, right? Because we rob from the bourgeoisie, right? So we share them and running them together. That's communist phase. So socialism guarantee equality in social status. How? Through forcing the bourgeoisies, right, to give up their property and give it to government temporarily, and government will return in terms redistribute all the property to the society, right? So that's a socialism. And communism also guarantee equality, but not opportunity, not social class, but the end game, the result, right? So communists guarantee that everybody will enjoy the same share of the collective production. So wait a second, what's the difference between socialists and communists in this case? Different. Because communist is what? They guarantee the end game equality, right? But your input, your effort may not be the same like your neighbors, right? So you could be a very decent, self-motivated individual. You want to contribute to the society, so you work so hard, right? and as a result, you contribute to economic growth, as a whole, big time, right? But your neighbor, we can say free rider, right, decided not to work at all. And at the end of the day, you will both enjoy the same share or whatever the government give you, right? That's communist phase, right? So in this case, eventually you will see what people gradually lose the motivation to work harder. Because why bother? I work hard, I ended up enjoying the same portion like, people who don't work at all, right? So that's the problem of communists, okay? There's no incentive, no motivation, right? But this is a very efficient way to guarantee the equality of the society as the end game. So everybody enjoy the same share of this collective production, right? So in this way, communism would be the worst economic system if you are aiming for innovation, investment, okay, invention. Communist will be the worst option because there's no incentive, right? So I have the idea, but why bother, right? If I contribute to the society, yeah, all I get is the recognition. People say, you're good, right? You're awesome. Other than that, nothing else, right? So why bother to work so hard, right? Just to sit back and relax and enjoy whatever is bring to me, okay, at the end of night, right? End of date, right? So that's the difference. Socialism is that it did not completely kill the motivation of people's desire to invest, to be creative, because it's not like you are working hard for a fixed rewards. But socialist is that they still encourage you to be innovative, to be incentives of your achievement, because the more you produce, right, the more bigger portion you can get, not bigger portion, okay, the bigger sum, okay, of the property you can obtain from the government will be larger. It's like, if you're ordering a 9-inch pizza and share by 2 people, half, right? But if you're ordering like 12-inch pizza, each one of you will enjoy a bigger piece of pizza, right? So you both contribute to invention, to creation, to innovation, right? So instead of sharing 9-inch pizza, you actually can share 12 inches pizza. Is that? So that's the difference between socialism and communism. So socialism did not really kill this concept of investment and being innovative, right? But communism is definitely killing this desire to invest in your career, okay? Because it doesn't make a big difference, right? So this is Marx's concept of what is an ideal communist phrase, all right? So a communist society is people work together aiming for the best outcome in this collective society. And after that, government would give you, okay, a portion of this fruit, okay? And it doesn't matter how hard you work, something, you share the same thing like your neighbor, okay? So in this case, another thinker, okay, called Mikhail Bakunin, right, Russian intellectual, right? He witnessed the mistreatment of the native Poles of Russian, right, imperial force and also policy everything. So in his mind, he was strongly convinced that no any forms of government are good. All governments are corrupted. They tend to oppress the people, despite it may be a democratic regime, but government tend to oppress people instead of protecting people, right? So according to Bakunin, he believed the ideal society will be governmentless. That's the definition of anarchism. Anarchism, right? So you may claim the social conflicts like, Voltaire, he blamed religion, right? And then capitalism, if it's a corrupt government, people blame the corrupt government, right? But what kind of government you want to replace whichever you disapprove, right? So socialist, communist, capitalist, okay. But according to Bocconi, okay, none of them are ideal because all governments, they're based on this presumption that they're evil. They try to oppress people. So he promote the idea that only a sustainable system in the society is anarchism. We do not need a monarch, a government, okay? Without a government, the society will functioning even better, so, right? So he actually appealed to various, radical followers. So to a point, you see a wave of movement targeting the head of government, all right, because they're being educated and convinced that all the problem is not the religion, it's the government, right? So you see these are radical activists. They started to assassinate the head of state. Most significant one is the assassination of the United States President William McKinley in 1901. All right. So McKinley, he could be considered as like pro-business, a little bit corrupt, but he did not deserve being assassinated, right? You can just vote him out of the office, right? But he got assassinated anyway. So it's a gesture made by this anarchist to prove that, look, just wait and see. The world will be better off without the government. But he never realized that, okay? And this radical belief also reflect in this Black Hands assassination of a Archduke Ferdinand. And that, as a result, lead to World War I, all right? So today we're actually ahead. We finished this age of revolution. Okay, we still talk about economic terms that will lay foundation of this age of industrialization to come tomorrow. Okay, and today your homework is multiple choice question, right? Yeah. No, it's SAQ, I'm sorry. So I already sent it to your TA. Your TA will forward it to you. So once again, SAQ. Okay, we know how to conquer SAQ, right? Your previous SAQ, I still have a couple assignments I haven't graded yet, but I will take a look later on tonight. Okay, so we have another set of SAQ. So once again, you do not need to answer to all three questions. You just choose one. ABC, choose one, because we're practicing how we construct the answer to nail all 3 points in SAQ. All right. So today's homework, SAQ, you will see 3 questions, okay, sub questions, but you only need to answer to one of them. But please make notes which one you answer, because I see some of you guys, you forgot to make a note. I don't know which question you're answering to. Okay, if that's the case, I cannot, exam whatever, okay, whichever you have qualify your essay, not essay, your short answer questions to College Board standard. All right. Okay, then that's all for today. Questions, guys? If you have questions, now is the chance to raise your hand and challenge me. Anyone? Nothing? Okay, then. So in that case, thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. And you all have a good day or good night. And I will talk to you tomorrow, right? Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Pleasure.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night. Good
Thank you.
night. See you tomorrow. Pleasure. Bye. Bye.